"Take this and get out," said my mother-in-law as she placed the divorce papers in my hands. She sees me as just another housewife, and lately she has become hostile. I truly feel awful for her because she has fell for my husband's deceptive words. I took the documents and left the house, having a hard time not laughing. To be honest, I'm eager to find out what comes next, and I can't stop wondering. My name is Laura, and I'm 26. I run an online education business that gives people the skills they need to work from home. Yes, I do function as the CEO. My staff currently oversees most company operations, allowing me to work from home at my own pace. Owen and I were married 2 years ago. He enjoys bragging that he works for a big corporation in a high-ranking capacity. But in actuality, he is only a contract employee doing odd chores. Additionally, he claims that even though she has some income, she's barely active, so it's basically the same thing. When he tells others that I'm simply a housewife, even though I work, he treats me like the archetypal housewife at home and offers me no assistance. But it doesn't seem to register with him. Come on, out of respect for your husband, can't you just forgive a little white lie? He says, brushing it aside. These falsehoods have caused my mother-in-law to torment me nonstop. Owen, who's so successful in our pride, why did he marry someone as lazy as you? She constantly questions. She arrives unexpectedly to give me criticism since she believes I'm simply hanging around all day. She just makes fun of me when I repeatedly explain that I work and take care of domestic chores. Yeah, you're working, but what about your housework? That is a joke. I've discussed her unexpected visits with Owen, but he simply brushes it off, saying things like, "Just ignore what an old lady says." He seems to be completely unconcerned. Furthermore, Owen retains the remaining $500 of his monthly salary for himself and only pays $500 toward our costs, even though I pay the rent and approximately $4,500 of our monthly expenses. His careless spending causes us to still come up short. He keeps telling falsehoods about my not working, even though I'm the one who supports the family, and he never defends me when his mother says hurtful things. I still can't decide whether to divorce him in spite of everything. That's because Owen gave me a lot of help at once while we were in college. Lisa tormented me since she was a controlling person and didn't like that. Even with my modest demeanor, I was thought superior to her. Lisa couldn't take it when I thought that those who put in a lot of effort should be recognized. There was a time when her juvenile harassment made me fear attending college, but I was able to graduate because of Owen's support. I accepted a challenging job after graduation that almost put me out of my mind. Owen was the one who recommended that I launch my online teaching company, asking, "Why not use your strengths and work for yourself?" I was able to establish a job that frees me from following a set schedule, thanks to his assistance. I owe a lot of who I am now to Owen's encouragement. I have put up with him for this reason the entire time. I have considered getting a divorce, but could I actually go through with it? While I was still thinking about it, I unintentionally came upon something startling on social media. I came and saw a post that included a picture of a man's hand and a high-end purse with the words, "My amazing boyfriend bought me this brand new bag." The man had on an opulent watch, the same special edition that I had gifted to Owen. It was Lisa who posted the message. We have shared connections, so even though I don't follow her, her postings frequently appear in my feed. I discovered additional hints about Owen as I read through her previous blogs. They had obviously been spending time together. Lisa's public post felt like either a challenge or blatant thoughtlessness, as she is undoubtedly aware of my marriage to Owen through our common connections. Either way, she was clearly underestimating my abilities. Owen once offered me a lot of support, for which I was thankful, but I cannot stand infidelity. This was the last straw that convinced me to decide against getting a divorce. The results of the private investigation I commissioned were unequivocal. Owen had been spending more time with Lisa and using my money to finance their trips, rather than attending the business school lessons he said he was taking to further his profession. Instead of being angry when I found out that Owen was having an affair with Lisa, I felt disappointed and somehow relieved. I finally had an excellent excuse to dismiss the marriage. In order to get ready to file for divorce, I quietly planned to move into a new apartment and sign the lease. Owen came home in a great mood and said, "I've been selected to attend an employee training camp." Just as I was about to wrap up everything, next week I'll be gone for a week. I was aware that he was actually arranging an opulent vacation with Lisa, rather than attending a training camp. This was merely one more of his fabrications. I was interested to see what justification he would offer next. Being chosen for such a program as a contract worker is uncommon, but Owen had a talent for making his falsehoods seem plausible. Owen is in his element, the maestro of trickery. I observed him with detached silence as he babbled about what an incredible training camp this would be. After some time, Owen finally departed for his purported training. I had finished preparing for my divorce and was about to pack when someone's doorbell rang once more. My mother-in-law showed up without warning. "See, Laura." She barged in, flashing the same opulent handbag I had seen in Lisa's social media image, and exclaimed, "Owen gave me this as a gift. It's the most recent model." He stated that was his way of saying thank you for all of my assistance, she remarked smugly. "So, what has Owen given you recently?" I was forced to respond truthfully, saying, "To be honest, I haven't received anything." "It's obvious that you haven't," she scoffed. "You're doing nothing but living off of Owen's income. Do you think you deserve gifts?" She continued, beaming, describing how Owen had used my money to pay for house repairs and to get her the newest appliances. Lisa and my mother-in-law were receiving the money I had been making contributions to our family budget. It wasn't a big financial problem for me because, happily, I handle the majority of my money independently. Her attacks went unanswered, but I could see she was annoyed by my quiet. She said, "Laura, are you listening?" My immediate response was, "What do you mean?" Anger heated her face. She cried, "How dare you ignore me?" She unexpectedly produced a completed set of divorce papers from her luggage. "You've never won my liking without doing anything but living off of Owen. You've been doing quite well. Which type of spouse are you?" She threw a pen at me and said, "Have some shame." When I told her that she was no one to tell me what to do, she pushed me aside and quickly entered my house. The tension in the house was palpable as my patience reached its limit. "What the actual hell? Laura, it's time for you to move out," she declared, her voice icy. I was caught off by her sudden request. "What do you mean by that?" But my mother-in-law moved in without hearing me. She marched into my bedroom with determination, her eyes flashing with anger. Without further discussion, she began to rummage through my drawers and closets, pulling out her clothes and personal items. I watched in disbelief as my mother-in-law aggressively stuffed my belongings into garbage bags. "This is unacceptable," she shouted, her voice growing louder as she threw items haphazardly into the bags. "You've taken up all of Owen's money. It's time for you to go." I tried to intervene, grabbing for the bags, but my mother-in-law's forceful movements pushed me back. "Stop. You can't do this," I shouted, but my mother-in-law ignored my pleas. With a grunt of exertion, She dragged the bulging bags down the hallway, the sound of their contents thudding against the floor echoing through the house. She reached the front door and flung it open, dumping the bag onto the lawn with a final triumphant shove. For the entire time you have been living at no cost as Owen's wife. Now sign these documents and get a divorce from him. Without you, we can function just fine. She hissed, her voice dripping with hatred. In fact, it'll be a relief not to have you draining our resources. My belongings were scattered across the grass, and she stood by the door, my face red, tears streaming down her face, as she watched her personal items exposed to the elements. This was such an embarrassing moment for me as the neighbors started gathering around, looking for drama. I quickly picked up my scattered stuff and went to a nearby hotel because I couldn't bear to be there anymore. After calming myself down with a shower, I sat on my bed thinking about how I could make them suffer. It turned out that my mother-in-law had been pressuring Owen to file for divorce from me for a while. She probably came that day wanting to get me to give her something to get mad at. I didn't anticipate her to be that organized, though, with divorce documents and towel. She said harshly, "Hurry up and sign these and never come back." She was entangled in Owen's deception and on the verge of losing her only source of income, so I couldn't help but feel bad for her. "Thank you for everything," I replied as I packed my possessions and signed the documents, hardly controlling my laughter. "I'll personally turn these in." Then I quietly walked away. She must have assumed I would beg her to change her mind because she just stood there and watched me go, startled. I'm lucky to have one fewer issue in my life. I immediately proceeded to City Hall, cheerfully filed the divorce papers, and made my way to my opulent apartment that I had carefully selected in secret. The $3 million condo had been kept a secret from Owen's mother as well. It was freeing to live alone since I didn't have to worry about caring for Owen or putting up with his mother's unending criticism. With my newfound independence, I was able to devote all of my attention to myself and even launch a personal company. I had not anticipated how calm single life would be, but the calm was short-lived. After his excursion, which he had covered up as a training camp, Owen quickly returned and found me somewhere else. Frantically, he dialed me. "Laura, what is going on with you?" "Return immediately." "Why should I?" I answered calmly. "Your mother told me to leave, so I did as she wished." "My mother?" "I advised you to disregard her. Simply return without asking any questions," he commanded. "I'm not coming back." "Sorry, we are currently divorced. I don't need to go back to a stranger's home." "What are you saying?" "Which separation?" Bewildered, Owen stumbled. "Your mother was prepared with the divorce papers the day you departed. I signed them and turned them into City Hall. The divorce has been legally concluded." "This cannot be true. Please return. My account balance is just $500, and I'm struggling to make ends meet." Calmly, I answered, "It's not my problem anymore. You are responsible for your living expenses as we are divorced. Get in touch with my attorney if you would want to talk about anything else. The information is in my desk drawer." After hanging up, I quickly turned off my phone. Owen's whole focus had been on persuading me to return home. I couldn't resist speculating about his potential next step. A few days later, Owen's attorney formally requested a meeting with me. I was shocked to find Owen's mother present as well when I showed up at the lawyer's office for the planned meeting. She mumbled, "That bag," referring to the opulent handbag I was carrying, which was far more expensive than the one she had earlier flaunted. As soon as she noticed me, I said, "You got a good eye, Mother. When you have money, it's nice to own something of quality." I grinned. "But why are you here?" Mom knows everything. Now that I'm actually just a contract worker, that you've been running a business, and that you've been covering most of our household expenses," said a silent, ashamed Owen. "He prepared the divorce documents without my permission. I admit to lying, and I'm to blame for allowing it to get this far. I'm sorry for what I did, and I'll stop her from talking negatively about you. Thus, kindly call off the divorce and return." Owen appeared to be sorry, but I could tell it was all staged. He really didn't think he had done anything improper. In an attempt to disassociate himself from any guilt, he would not stop implying that his mother was to blame for everything. I quietly whispered, "I'm sorry, but I can't come back." Owen pounded his fist against the desk in reply. "You become a CEO as a result of me. Are you not appreciative?" He showed his real colors when he said, "I demand $1 million in compensation since you're divorcing me for your own selfish reasons." All that was left of the guy I had once loved was a greed-driven idiot. "Owen, stop it." His mother attempted to step in, but it was too late. His desperation was evident. He turned to face the attorney and made his argument. Laura had grabbed all of her possessions and vanished without my permission. My mother was the one who wrote out the divorce documents. Laura neglected her spousal responsibilities and emotionally distressed my mother and me. With a gesture that suggested I was at fault, he pointed at me. The attorney, obviously frustrated, groaned and produced a file. His voice worn out, he stated, "Laura has already agreed to the divorce and has no intention of pursuing any further claims." When Owen saw the document, all the color left his face. It described his affair with Lisa and included pictures of the two of them checking into and out of hotels. "I'm appreciative of your assistance in helping me launch my business, and I've paid you back." I looked straight at him as I replied, "But even though I worked hard, you used my money to live a lavish lifestyle, spoil your mother, and spend time with your lover." When I realized it was Lisa, I was taken aback. "How was your opulent vacation with a harasser of mine?" Owen's face was pale, and he appeared motionless. His mother burst into an outburst, still unaware of his affair. "What's this all about? What does this signify?" she said, making a big fuss. I ignored her and went on, "I won't demand that you refund the money you wasted or seek damages if we are divorced. However, there won't be any division of property." His mother, shocked, interrupted, "That's unacceptable, Laura. I've started renovating our family home. I thought Owen was managing the finances, and I bought new furniture and appliances. Owen can't support himself in his current situation, so please reconsider the divorce. If not, please help us financially." Her demands were outrageous, and both the lawyer and I were stunned by her audacity. "Well, that's quite audacious, or perhaps thoughtless, madam." The lawyer sighed heavily. "It is not appropriate for you to become involved in this. Please keep silent." Then he returned his focus to Owen. "What are your plans?" "We will sue you for damages and seek payment for the joint assets you wasted on your mistress. If you continue to cause trouble, I'll provide this proof to your business as well." Owen gave a defeated sigh. At my follow-up comment, weakly he mumbled, "I guess I have to accept the divorce." Owen was a contract worker who was proud to be affiliated with a major firm, and my salary allowed him to live a lavish lifestyle. He gave in since there was a chance his affair might be discovered and his job would be in jeopardy. "How about the improvements to the house?" "I have to pay the credit card payment shortly," Owen responded to me. His mom applied pressure. However, Owen remained silent, got to his feet, and left the attorney's office. His mom ran to catch up with him. Lost in contemplation, I peered through the door. They had gone. I then requested payment from Lisa after sending her the evidence of Owen's infidelity. With a nonchalant, "Oops, you caught me," she said. "But now Owen's mine. I'll cover whatever losses you desire. He works at a large company as an elite." Lisa chuckled without any regret. As it happened, Owen had also been deceiving her. I was the CEO, he told our college buddies, but Lisa didn't seem to know. She looked proud when I told her the truth, but then realized she too had been duped. Therefore, I was duped by Owen trying to place the responsibility elsewhere, she asserted. I'm the real victim here. But it was true that she had an affair with Owen. If you don't pay the damages, I'll send this evidence to your workplace and family, I warned Lisa. Make the money without delay. My pals said that Lisa was already embroiled in another settlement and had a tendency to become involved with married guys. I don't care what happens to her anymore. Meanwhile, Owen kept messaging me in the hopes of getting things straightened up. Rent was too expensive, so he went back to his family. He battled to bring their living standards down, and before long, they were drowning in debt from more loans. Owen started making errors at work because he was overworked and weary. He sent me a note that made me giggle. "Laura, I've realized how much I cherish you. My errors won't be repeated from now on. Let's help one another." However, I could not recall ever having any assistance from him in our marriage. His concept of mutual support was completely incorrect. When I warned him through my lawyer that any further contact would result in me sending the evidence of his affair to his workplace, the messages stopped completely. I want to enjoy my single life and am presently working happily while growing my business. I do not currently have any plans to get married again. Did you really come back just for the money? I questioned in shock. Obviously, it's not at all implausible. The cherished grandchild should naturally inherit. I should be grateful to Grandma for all that I've accomplished, Olivia said icily. That's why she has to get over here and get out of here quickly. Her callous remarks astounded me, especially because they were aimed at our grandma who had reared us. Who could have such nasty intentions? Let's go back 20 years. Soon after I was born, my sister Olivia and I, Nora, lost our parents in an accident. I had only seen pictures of them. It was our maternal grandparents who adopted us and showered us with affection. However, Olivia was never fond of them. She had entirely given up on authority by the time she entered junior high. She became even more agitated since our grandparents had to apologize to her for her actions on a regular basis. She went so far as to sternly advise them to stop attending school functions. Olivia took money from our grandfather as if it were her due and went without saying anything. After graduating from university, she also showed no appreciation. I made the decision to stay with and take care of our grandparents in order to atone for her self-centeredness. After university, I worked locally to stay nearby. After Olivia went away, life with my grandparents was quiet for a while. That is until the day everything changed. Grandma received a cancer diagnosis, and we were informed that her time to live was limited. The news broke my heart. I was unable to control my tears, but Grandma was kind and consoling as always. "You're very sweet, Nora," she attempted to comfort me by saying. "I've lived a full life, but I'm touched by your tears." Her words gave me courage, and I decided to see her through to the conclusion. I emailed Olivia, telling her of Grandma's illness since I felt she should know. I thought that Olivia, who never responded to any of our communications, would at least answer this, but it was all for nothing. Nothing happened, no visit, no response. I could see that Grandma's time for saying goodbye was getting closer since her health was deteriorating quickly. I forced myself to hold back my emotions, but I never stopped smiling for her. I was devoted to taking care of her, together with Grandpa. I kept emailing Olivia every day, even though she was not talking, thinking that Grandma would get to see her face one final time. Then one day, the doorbell rang. Following innumerable missed messages, I was shocked to see Olivia standing there with a flashy-looking man I didn't know. Olivia pointed to the man and stated, "I got married," clearly indicating that she was upset that I was confused. "This is my spouse," he said. "I'm Stephen," giving a curt, indifferent hello. The two of them entered the home without pausing. Upon seeing Olivia, Grandpa, who had been lounging in the living room, sprang to his feet. He said, "Olivia, you're back." Olivia questioned haughtily, "So how much is Grandma's inheritance?" in place of exchanging pleasantries. I was taken aback. I had assumed Olivia had come to see Grandma, but it was obvious that money was her sole motivation. She persisted, "So how much is it exactly this time?" While relaxing next to her, Stephen turned to face Grandpa and declared, "Hey, Grandpa, I'm thirsty," obviously anticipating a drink. I was too shocked by their self-centeredness to be silent. "I don't know how much, and it's incredibly rude to talk about inheritance while Grandma is still fighting for her life." Olivia sneered, "You are aware, Nora, that Grandma is wealthy. We might not receive anything later if we don't resolve this immediately." Grandma did indeed come from an affluent household. My great-grandfather, her father, had managed a prosperous company, and although Grandma never took over, she had picked up a lot of managerial skills from him. After Grandpa's marriage, they established their own company and accumulated $1 million fortune. It seemed like Stephen and Olivia were pursuing that now. "This is absurd. Were you truly only back to get the money?" I said angrily. Olivia replied, "Of course," with no trace of embarrassment. "Don't you think it makes sense for the cherished grandchild to inherit?" In addition, she grinned and said, "I'm pregnant. The inheritance will go to Grandma's great-grandchild if she dies shortly. That would make her pleased, wouldn't it?" "What are you saying?" Grandpa's former workstation had been transformed into a care area for Grandma, who was sound asleep in the room next to the living room. Grandma was clearly hearing our voices because she was having difficulty moving. Every day, I ordered Olivia to stop talking about the money, but all she did was laugh meanly and yell, "Hey, Grandma, do you hear me? Please die quickly so I may get my inheritance." For me, that was the final straw. I screamed, "Leave." Furious, I took hold of Stephen and Olivia's arms and pulled them toward the door. They offered me very little resistance as I tossed them out of the home with all my power. "Never return inside this house," I yelled. "You're acting conceited." "I came here at your request," Olivia shot back mockingly. I yelled back, "I wish you hadn't come if you're going to say such horrible things about Grandma and Grandpa." Steam appeared to flow out of my brain. "Though you were raised with such kindness, you forget your thanks and say such harsh things. You're the worst." I slammed the door shut and cried out of frustration. I was banging at the door when Grandpa, who had brought juice at Stephen's request, saw me. "Are you all right?" he inquired. He appeared to consider what I had told him about Olivia and Stephen's behavior, then gave me the juice and smiled sweetly, adding, "Don't worry. Grandpa will take care of it." After a prolonged fight with her disease, Grandma eventually died. My emotions were slightly lessened when I saw her at peace, finally liberated from the agony of cancer. It was a relief to see her calm face. Grandma, You did a great job, I said. Thank you very much for everything. When I got home after the funeral, Olivia and Stephen were already there. They hadn't attended the burial, even though I had emailed them to let them know of Grandma's passing. Olivia said, "Of course it's for the money," in response to my question about why they arrived at this time. We must talk about Grandma's will. We entered the house and started to discuss the inheritance. Olivia and Stephen were keen to get the money, even though I was reluctant to talk about it so soon after Grandma passed away. With a satisfied expression, Olivia withdrew a paper from the packet she had brought. "Observe this," she said. "This is Grandma's will." I was surprised and couldn't help but gasp. There it was, in Grandma's own handwriting, plainly indicating that Olivia was to receive the whole thing, including the business. It was difficult to accept. Grandma had sobbed in her chamber after hearing Olivia's icy comments on the day of her visit. Despite her sorrowful words, Grandma believed that Olivia merely considered me as a financial source. It was surprising that her will left Olivia all of her possessions. Is this some kind of joke? I whispered as I shook. "I guess you were after the inheritance too, based on your surprised face," Stephen said, laughing. I said that I was merely astonished that Grandma had actually drafted this will and didn't give a damn about the wealth. "Don't act so saintly," Stephen teased, and Olivia said cynically, "She's always been like this. The house, Grandma's business, and the remainder of her possessions will all be mine. Even though we were booted out last time, now it's your chance to go. Grandpa isn't able to stay here either, so leave with him." Grabbing my arm, Olivia dragged me in the direction of the entrance. I could not control my rage at Olivia and Stephen. Grandma was lonely at the moment, but Olivia hadn't shown her face. She was waiting for Grandma's death so she could receive everything. I was on the verge of exploding and said, "Stop it." The doorbell rang. Olivia relaxed her grasp, startled, and I moved her hand aside. I noticed a shadow through the frosted glass as I turned to face the door. Upon opening the door, I encountered Mr. Stone, the attorney who had previously made several house calls to discuss our grandparents' business. "Sorry I'm late," Mr. Stone said, and Grandpa, who had been making coffee, welcomed him. "We've been holding out." "Let's talk about the will," Grandpa said. "As written here, I've acquired everything, including the company and Grandma's wealth," Mr. Stone said as he handed over the will. Olivia declared with assurance, "I've even taken it out. The will is already finalized, and the money is in the bank." But Grandpa maintained his composure and grinned softly, saying, "There's more to talk about. You are no longer eligible to inherit the inheritance." Olivia was perplexed, and I was having trouble keeping up with everything as well. At that point, Mr. Stone put his laptop on the shoe rack next to the front entrance and pushed a USB stick into it. Grandma, Olivia, and Stephen's voice tape started playing on the laptop. We overheard Grandma being pushed to write the will, saying, "Come on, write the will quickly, Grandma. If you don't put down that you will give us all of your assets, things will get problematic." It was evident from listening to the audio that Grandma had been forced into writing the will by Olivia and Stephen. Mr. Stone paused the tape and clarified, saying, "The Civil Code declares a will formed under pressure to be void. Thus, this will have no legal force," he stated, gesturing to the paper that Olivia was clutching. "When was this set up?" Unable to contain my amazement, I inquired. Grandpa revealed that Olivia and Stephen had visited the house while I was gone, forcing Grandma to write the will. "It was me who set up the voice recorder," said Grandpa coolly. But Grandma had me sign the documents too, Olivia murmured as she began to lose her cool. Grandpa laughed and said, Olivia, it seems like you don't comprehend anything at all. Check the fine print. Did you sign an application for a credit card loan? What you signed is a debt, Grandpa reassuringly said. Olivia quickly pulled out her phone to look at her account. It's unbelievable. She looked at her online account and shouted, My account is in the negative. Stephen looked astonished as well, and her face went white. What are you trying to say? We believed that we would inherit the property. I've previously gotten loans for my car and house. This is serious business, Stephen said. Stephen, please calm down, Mr. Stone urged. You will still receive something as Grandma's granddaughter, even if the inheritance is less than anticipated, right? Olivia begged fervently. I came here to convey just that, Mr. Stone retorted, pulling a will from a white envelope. This notarized document serves as the basis for a valid will. I'll read the material because it's legitimate. Olivia's hands clenched around Stephen's in anticipation. Nevertheless, Olivia's name was left completely out of the will. Grandpa was to inherit the firm, and Grandpa and I were to split the remaining assets. With desperation, Olivia said, Why can't we do something about this? Mr. Stone replied coolly, Nothing can be done legally, Olivia. You had the right to claim the inheritance, but you lost that right by threatening Grandma. When Olivia asked again if there was anything that could be done, Grandpa dryly said, No, there's nothing that can be done. You cold old man. Olivia spat before storming out of the house. Stephen, left behind, hurried after her, calling, Wait for me. But he looked pitiful in his hurry. Later, I learned that Olivia and Stephen had a child, but because of the debt they accumulated, they couldn't take adequate parental leave and had to return to work without a break. They had expected to receive a substantial inheritance before Grandma's death and had indulged in luxuries, even going into debt. As a result, they were forced to sell their expensive house and luxury car, which they had bought on loans. All that remained was a massive debt and the harsh task of repaying it. Once, when Olivia and Stephen came pleading for assistance, Grandpa rejected them with icy coldness. Their divorce resulted from the strain that their financial issues caused on their marriage. Olivia attempted to move back into this house after I told her that Stephen had moved back in with his parents, but I strongly forbade her. I would not let Olivia move in without my consent, because I inherited this house from Grandma. There were rumors that Olivia was broke and living beneath a bridge, but nothing was known for sure. At this point, she kept asking for my assistance, but I had to keep telling her it was not feasible since I could not afford to support her. In truth, the inheritance I received from Grandma had already been donated to a children's home. Having lost our parents at an early age, I deeply empathized with the orphans. If it weren't for my grandparents, Olivia and I might have been raised in such a facility. I donated the money in hopes of bringing a little happiness to the children there. When Olivia came asking for help, I told her about the donation. She was very surprised and said, You should help your own family first. However, recalling her past actions, I had no intention of assisting her. As time passed, I got married and was blessed with children. Grandpa seemed content with my happy life and passed away without suffering. Losing Grandpa felt like a hole had opened in my heart, but with the support of my loving husband, I was able to face the world again. Now, I continue my grandparents' legacy, working as the president of the company and managing the challenges of parenting. I hoped to live in a way that would make my grandparents proud, watching over me from heaven. But this wasn't the end that I was expecting. Olivia and Stephen sat in their dingy apartment, the weight of their mounting debt pressing down on them. The opulent lifestyle they once flaunted was a distant memory, replaced by constant financial strain and a strained marriage. The inheritance they had banked on never materialized, and their lavish house and luxury car had been sold off to pay the debts they had accrued. Now they were left with nothing but regret and a burning desire for revenge against those they blamed for their downfall. Me. Determined to get back at me, Olivia and Stephen devised a plan. They knew I had been successful in my new role, continuing Grandma's legacy, and they aimed to undermine that success. Olivia, ever resourceful, started spreading rumors about my management of the company. She whispered to journalists and potential investors, claiming that I was mismanaging funds and involved in shady dealings. Stephen, meanwhile, used his connections to dig into every corner of the company's operations, hoping to find something, anything, that could be used against me. Weeks went by, and the rumors began to take their toll. Investors grew wary, and the company's stock price started to drop. I felt the pressure mounting as the accusations reached my office. My team and I worked tirelessly to counter the false claims, but it was clear that someone was working against us with a well-orchestrated plan. One day, as I was reviewing some financial documents, my assistant burst in with urgent news. "We've been hacked," she said breathlessly. "Our financial data is being leaked to the press." My heart sank. I knew this was no ordinary breach. It was a calculated attack. In the midst of the chaos, Mr. Stone, the lawyer who had helped with Grandma's will, contacted me. "I have some information that might help," he said. He revealed that Olivia and Stephen had been behind the attacks. They had manipulated the situation to their advantage, using their connections to discredit me and sabotage the company. With this new information, I confronted Olivia and Stephen. I found them in a rundown cafe, their faces a mix of desperation and determination. "This stops now," I said firmly. "You've done enough damage." Olivia sneered. "You took everything from us. We're just making things right. You think causing harm to others will fix your mistakes," I countered. "Your actions have consequences, and it's time to face them." Stephen tried to brush off the confrontation, but Olivia looked visibly shaken. She hadn't anticipated being cornered. "How are you going to proceed?" she insisted. I said, "I'll make sure you face the legal repercussions for your actions, and I'm going to expose your schemes." As promised, I collaborated with Mr. Stone to compile evidence and provide it to the police. Due to their attempts to damage the business and its operations, Olivia and Stephen were looked into for their fraudulent acts and might potentially face legal action. Olivia and Stephen's revenge scheme ultimately fell through. Their actions only served to accelerate their downfall, whereas I was able to uphold my grandparents' legacy and repair the company's reputation. Olivia and Stephen discovered this lesson too late, but the experience served as a brutal reminder that seeking revenge frequently results in greater misery and suffering.